Hey, it's Doug Robertson, your weird teacher, and today I want to talk about one of my most favorite topics of all time, the greatest author who has ever lived, the incomparable Dr. Seuss. That's right, I said it. Dr. Seuss is the greatest author who ever lived. That Shakespeare guy, he's all right, but he's got nothing on the Seuss. So let's focus on specifically how Dr. Seuss relates to children. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Doug, of course he relates to children. He's a children's book author. That's not what I mean. Okay, I'm not talking about how he talks to kids. That's a whole other thing. I'm not even talking about how he makes kids the center of a lot of his stories. It's really easy to talk about books that are kid-centric. The main character is a child in these two books. Also, fun fact, first book, last book. Hey, look at that. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the implicit ways that Dr. Seuss talks to kids, and we're going to use 3 books specifically to do that. The first book I want to talk about is The Lorax. The Lorax is kind of a depressing story if you think about it for very long, because the Lorax starts here. That's the world of the Lorax. This is where we live now. But this is our insert character, right? The little boy. And at the end, after the Onceler tells the whole story, because the Onceler, the bad guy, the villain, is the narrator for the Lorax. The Onceler is the one who screwed up, and then the Onceler is the one who tells the whole story. The Onceler is telling the whole story to the boy. And at the end of the story, the only one who can save the world, the Onceler specifically says this, the only one who can save the world is the child. So in the children's book, Dr. Seuss is saying to the children, reading the children's book, the only ones who can save the world are the kids. And I am giving you the seed, physically and metaphorically, to save the world. We screwed it up. The narrator, I'm giving it to you to solve it. So you're the audience, but you're also going to be the hero of whatever comes next. It's still kind of obvious, kind of really on the nose. So let's talk about Horton. One of the things I love about Horton is he's such a bummer. His book, not Horton. Horton's great. Horton's books are such bummers. Horton is Job. Horton gets beat up in both of his books. Horton Hears a Who, and the other one, Horton Hatches an Egg. Horton Hatches an Egg, for those of you who don't remember, Horton sits on a tree trying to hatch an egg after this lazy bird flies away. There's a lot going on in that book, and he gets bullied by his friends. He doesn't get to go play. He gets captured by hunters. He gets sold to the circus. There's a lot going on in that one. Poor Horton is so beat down in that book. And again, he's beat down in this book, all because he's sticking to what he wants to say, what he means, what he feels, his promise. And the end of Horton Hears a Who, for those of you who don't remember the Who's are trying to make a bunch of noise to make the kangaroos and everybody hear them, so that they will stop trying to kill them, because Horton can't believe something. His spec has to be killed. Horton has to conform. The Who mayor is going through everywhere trying to make sure everybody's making noise, and then who does he find at the very end who's not making any noise? Oh, little Jojo. Little Jojo playing with a yo-yo. The smallest Who. The smallest Who? Yes, a very tiny, very small shirker. Tiny. And it's Jojo's voice at the end of the book. Jojo's voice, the smallest voice, is the one that turns the tide. It's Jojo's yop that stops everything. So again, in a Dr. Seuss book pointed at children, he's saying that the smallest voice is the one that saves the world. Again. Now, this is kind of a B-level Dr. Seuss book. This is one of the ones that's a little less well-known. Yertle the Turtle. I really like Yertle the Turtle because it's a great way to teach World War II and Hitler, because Yertle is Hitler. He even had the little mustache up until the very end when Seuss was finishing the book. And Yertle the Turtle is all about this turtle who decides to stack all of the other turtles up so he can be the king of all he can see. And the turtle at the very bottom is this little turtle named Mac, who keeps complaining and keeps complaining and trying to get the king to stop. And finally, plain little lad, plain little Mac, is the one who brings down Yertle, the turtle at the very bottom of the food chain. The one that everybody else is on top of. You know, like kids in society, the ones at the bottom. Everybody else is above you. You have no control. You have no power. You're just a child. It's the kid, the little one at the bottom, speaking up, making a noise, making a rude noise, burping, that stops everything. Fun fact, when this book came out in I'm going to stretch it out so you don't hear me trying to remember, 1950, when this book came out, parents, super upset about the burp, very unhappy with it. Oh my gosh, you can't have burp in a children's book. It's a children's book. What? Think of the children. What if they burp? 1950. Ooh. But again, book for children, telling them the littlest, the youngest, they're the ones who bring down the king. And I really like that that's the message that he's sending. Now, there is one more example of this, but it's real dark, okay? And it's Seuss's darkest book. I know I said that the Lorax is kind of dark, but this book is about the Cold War. This book is about nuclear destruction. This is by far his darkest book. And this is the only Seuss book that doesn't end on any kind of a positive note at all. And I want you to notice what's at the end of the book. You've got the two characters ready to blow each other up with the smallest possible bomb, which might mean something. But the witness, waiting to be blown up, is the child. So, the child insert in this story, waiting for the adults to ruin everything. Still a message. Not quite as happy. Not really the one that you want kids to internalize, except for them to know that, hey, they're going to mess stuff up. And so you need to be the one to fix it. Dr. Seuss is the greatest author of all time.